Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So, of course, massive amounts happening. Um, there's talk Rosenstein could be sacked in the next 2 days. As we know from the Rosenstein reading, that was quite extraordinary. He's ready for it, so that's not the end of the world. With the kids, there has been that massive outcry. You even had Jerry Falwell's son, Falwell, coming out against. When you've got half the evangelicals horrified by the separation of parents and children, it's not a good look for the administration. But this particular reading is by request, and we're just going to shift topics for a while to give our heads a bit of a break from all the emotion. And I've been asked to read by some of our Canadian viewers on Justin Trudeau. So inevitably that will have some indications of what's happening with the relationship of the USA and Canada. So let's have a look at Justin Trudeau. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't hurt when you're eye-wateringly gorgeous, of course. It has to be an asset in life. So let's see. Young Justin. Okay, it's freezing here, viewers. Absolutely freezing. So I'm going to do a couple of mini readings on various issues with him. So this is just a little general warm-up of where he's at. So he's juggling. Okay, so what we have here is he's juggling, right? This is also often called the manipulator card, but in this context, I think he's just juggling not only his roles, but expectations of people. And in terms of dealing with Trump, it is certainly an almighty juggle. But we'll do a mini reading on that relationship. He has here the Empress. I presume he's married. It could be his wife, it could be his mother, or it could be a woman of influence in his life. But the Empress represents fertility and female's solidity, if you like, the solid female energy, the good female energy out there. He's got that supporting him. He's not just a pretty boy and a pretty face. There's a strength there. He's got the Ace of Wands. Now this is underneath the juggling expectations card, and I gather he's been under a lot of pressure politically from the Conservatives as well, but he has got the Ace of Wands. So that is fire energy, if you like, and the idea of just coming forward, new shoots, if you notice the little green shoots here. Because aces are powerful and it's in a key position, he's stronger than he looks. In the outcome position, bearing in mind this is just a very slim little reading, he's got the Page of Cups. So there's a part of him, he's got the strength here with both the Empress and the Ace, but this is the side of him that's more ambivalent, if you like. It's a side of him that's more arty and intellectual that gets repressed. If you're going to be the leader of a country, you don't have time to pursue the things you might actually enjoy, unless, of course, you're Trump and just go golfing. So this is a card of being able to communicate unconsciously with people. So he has that extraordinary gift of being able to communicate, not always and not only through words. He can do that. But there is a warning in a sense of there's a slightly illusional aspect to this card that he might not be able to keep completely focused on what's going on. He might be distracted. So basically he's under pressure, but he's up to it. So that's sort of the little version for Justin. So now let's look at his relationship with Trump. Trump, of course, would hate him because he's everything Trump isn't. He's a younger, more virile and charismatic character. Trump is a bully, so he has a certain, he has a certain, Trump I'm talking about here, snake oil charm that he can turn on and off, whereas Trudeau is infinitely more appealing. So let's look at their relationship, Trump and Trudeau. Let's have a little look. Oh, my hands are so cold I can't shuffle. It is freezing, viewers. Freezing. Trump and Trudeau. Evaluating the relationship. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So I take his first card, the Harvest card, the Seven of Pentacles. Trudeau, more than Trump, is really weighing up the relationship, to what extent it's worth it, to what extent can he make it work. Of course, with Trump, it's out of sight, out of mind, onto the next shiny thing. Having abused the closest ally to the US, he's moved on, he's forgotten about Trudeau, and he certainly couldn't spell his name. So here, this would have to be Trudeau, I see, as evaluating the relationship. The King of Swords, Trudeau, being an educated guy and a bright guy, is fully aware that the Mueller investigation, which is what I see represented in this King of Swords, is going to, in a way, sort out this issue for him. He understands, Trudeau understands, that the key to surviving this and preserving the relationship with the states is waiting it out. So he, in the big picture, is waiting to see what happens with the Mueller investigation and if he'll even be dealing with Trump. The Lovers in the key position here, to me, it's quite obviously the traditional relationship between the US and Canada, which is a very close one. The Outcome card, which supports my theory on why he's just going to sit back and wait. Here we have the Wheel of Fortune, the card of karma, the card of destiny. So he understands that this situation is not permanent and that there's a brand new day on the other side. And that to a certain extent he also appreciates he can't steer it. No matter what he says or does, it's not going to make any difference with this maniac. So he's playing his own cards close to his chest, but he's letting it play out as it is destined to do. Right, so that makes sense on that level. Okay, so what I'd also like to say about that is Trump is impossible for other leaders to deal with because he only deals with the personal. It's impossible to actually plan or make any strategic decisions. So I think that's why Trudeau is leaving it in the lap of the gods. That would make sense. So now I'd like to see what's happening with Canada more generally as a country. So let's see what is happening with Canada. Dear old Canada. Australia feels a great affinity for Canada, of course, being the sort of smaller, less powerful partner to Britain in the colonial context. But we do share a colonial history with the Brits. And you guys, of course, also had the French. It was, history's a funny thing, isn't it? We've got a place in Sydney called La Perouse where the French actually landed before the Brits, and it was named after La Perouse. And it's only a quirk of history that we weren't French. Also, we could have been Dutch. Tasmania was called Van Diemen's Land because the Dutch had found it. So history is a funny thing. All right, so let's see what is happening with Canada itself in the next little while. Canada, speak to me about Canada. Canada. Okay. Let's go. King of Swords again. Can't escape Moolah. It affects the world. Oh, Canada's got some hard work coming up. So, on top of this, we have Moolah and justice. Also, these three cards are quite difficult for Canada, I have to say. You've got the moon, and I take these next two cards to be the conservative anti-Trudeau push, because as we know, everywhere these conservative parties are getting in. So this is about hidden agendas, this is about deception. So it could be read as deception around Trump, but I don't think so. I'm just asking about Canada. I think this is more likely to be the hidden agendas of the wealthy and powerful in Canada. And the reason I say that is because it next has the Ten of Pentacles, intergenerational money and power. So this is about the ones who put in, was it Steve Harper, that hideous Prime Minister that you had? It's those forces. Canada is working very hard and will have to continue to work hard to hold its own in the madness of the current political landscape and the economic landscape. So now I want to talk, dear viewers, I want to talk briefly about the economy. So given that the economy of the two countries is so bound up, I have, along with other readers, been talking about how the American stock market and other measures of the economy are in for a shock and tumble later this year, but more particularly next year. So let's see how Canada is going to fare when the US economy takes a dive because of these stupid tariffs. God, talk about going back to the 19th century or even 18th century. The tariffs. Okay. The Canadian and US economy. All right, here we go. Oh, that's kind of a nice story, I think. Okay, So it begins with the Four of Cups, this figure under the tree being made an offer it doesn't really like. Okay, so what it would mean to me in terms of the economic thing, this is actually about the tariffs. Take it or leave it. We're imposing these tariffs. And then Trump has the hide to be upset and angry when people push back. So Canada and Canadians, of course, are not happy with this arrangement. But because of being a sane nation, basically temperance, so Canadians will wait this out. I think you'll see more of the boycotts, obviously, because that's an emotional reaction as much as an economic reaction, and go the boycotts. But temperance, right? It also means integration. So just being cautious and trying to keep everything steady. Then the Ten of Swords, which is not good, being stabbed in the back for your trouble. So this is what I was just saying about no one's able to actually do a deal with Trump because he doesn't stick with the same position for more than a nanosecond. So by trying to do anything more immediate or anything more specific with the economy, they will be stabbed in the back by the US. Nice. Nice neighbour, nice ally. But don't worry, Canada, because you have the Strength card. This is the outcome card. The strength to weather this. This is not the end of the world. It's not going to be catastrophic economically, despite being stabbed in the back by the US. So the strength card, you have the female figure patting the lion, so taming the US, or in fact not being intimidated by the US. So that's a positive note. All right, I had to get that out, and thank you to the Canadian viewers. Thank you all for your comments. They've been really amazing. I mean, they're always good, but I think the last week or so of comments has been especially fabulous. So thank you all. And I'm about to do another reading for you. Bye.